Hi guys, and welcome back to another Kurinuki tutorial video. Here I'm going to be showing you how to carve a teapot from a lump of clay. So I've shaped out my clay into a general teapot shape, and I'm wiring off the top which will form the lid. I then mark out the position of where the lid will fit into on the bulk of the teapot. So here I'm just marking out 2 centimetres from the sides of the teapot and then marking a circle. I use this circle as a reference of where to dig out the bulk of the clay from the interior of the teapot. And I keep going until I'm about 2 centimetres from the base of the teapot, and I'm just smoothing out the walls with my finger. So I also mark a circle 2 centimetres away from the edge on the lid and remove the clay around that circle, and this allows the lid to sit on the body of the teapot. Here I'm carving out lugs which will form the attachments to a handle that I'll make at a later date. So I usually make my handles out of wood and brass and attach them on after the pot has been fired. I can do a tutorial explaining how I do that. I then bore a hole in the spout of the teapot using a hole borer. So this is just to make holes in clay. You can actually use a screwdriver or any kind of small thin implement you have. I'm then starting to carve out the more decorative carvings on the outside. Here I'm using a DIY tool that I've repurposed for carving my clay. So this is usually used for filling in walls. But I found that it makes really nice brutal angular carvings to my pottery, and I usually use this in more of a random motion, going around the teapot, removing some of the excess clay from the outside, but also leaving these nice textured rips of the clay. So I just continue around carving the teapot in this kind of random motion, but still taking care to where I'm placing the tool and the overall profile of the teapot, just so that it kind of has a more symmetrical shape. Even though these carvings are quite random, you still want the actual profile to look like a teapot. I also do smaller carvings around the spout, making sure not to take too much and make a hole in the wall. I also then carve the lid. I find that it's nice to make carvings from the lid down to the body of the teapot, so it sits as if it's been kind of forged from one piece of clay, which it has. But it's just nice to make those carvings kind of extend into each other from the lid down to the body of the teapot. I also take quite a lot out of the lid of the clay because I don't want it to be too heavy. And then basically you can just keep going until you're happy. Just take in account of how thin your walls are getting. So you can kind of tell if your walls are getting too thin, if they're buckling under the pressure of the carvings. It means you're getting close to the thinness that they're stable at. I then go around and just do the final finishing touches, removing a few bits of clay here and there just until I'm happy with how the overall form is looking. I then flip the teapot over and remove a lot of the bulk of the clay around the base. So there can be a lot of clay left here, and it's quite good to remove it so that your teapot isn't very heavy. I then carve a foot ring around the base of the teapot and remove the bulk of the clay from inside of that foot ring. I then get a sponge and sponge off the base of the teapot so that it's nice and smooth from where we just carved. And then here I'm just marking in my maker's mark on the edge as well. That's the final teapot. I've also added some holes to those lugs of clay for the handle to attach into, and some decorative smushes which I love to add to my pottery. I'll answer any questions you have in the comments down below, and I've also linked some other tutorials if you'd like to give them a try. Happy pottering!